You wouldn't want somebody in the creative suite to be in AI because, in the end of the day, the one thing that AI still doesn't have is the ability to have inspiration hit them and to come up with great idea of if you have different types of apps that can integrate to each other as well and not just into Shopify, that's where usually you see that multiplier of value. Nobody can ignore it anymore in 2025, and that is the Shopify tech stack.
Let's start by just hear from you who you are, Avishai, a bit about your journey, your current role, and what drives you. What drives your passion in the growth space, right? What you're coming from.
And so I'm a three-time founder. I started my first company around 10 years ago. That was an analytics company that sold to LinkedIn. Second company I started was in the publishing space. It was a combination between performance marketing, data-driven AI, and content. That was a very successful company, and at its peak had 80 employees, $70 million top line. And right now, I'm in the works of really ramping up my third company, which is a demand generation partnership company. And in between the second and third company, I've done multiple different things with a company called 8fig, which is a growth partner for e-commerce sellers. And we provide funding and free tools. And one of my roles now as a VP of growth in the company is to provide value for the e-commerce sellers and to create for them all kinds of ways to scale their business beyond just the funding.
Oh, that's great. So you see a lot of e-commerce brands, right?
I
Big
do.
and small. You meet
I
a
do.
lot of them.
Yeah. And from multiple directions as well, because one of the things that was not something as I do as much as I am is an angel investor. And I've invested in multiple different SaaS companies in the space. So I get to see from multiple directions. I get to see from 8fig, and I get to see from um, different SaaS companies who also cater for Shopify DDC. And I get the kind of a full picture in the e-commerce space.
That's great. Probably have a lot of insight and that can bring value. So let me ask you, which e-commerce brand that you see out there is doing it right? Like who's acing it on growth and acquiring audience? Who's winning?
One of my favorite ones right now is an up and coming one. And remember this name because in 2, 3 years from now, it will look completely obvious. But right now, nobody yet knows the name. They're called Heavies, and they're a headphone company. And the engineer there is a famous engineer that invented a headphone that I use and used in the past also as a DJ. And the story there of the founders and why they built what they built and for the audience they built it for is fascinating. And I don't want to give too much away, but it is the only, at least known to me, heavy metal headphones company. And I don't listen to heavy metals at all. It's not even remotely interesting to me, but the story of this e-commerce business is fascinating. So I am rooting for heavies, or may I say, rooting for heavies, and um, hopefully we'll see them exit one day for hundreds of millions, if not billion.
Amazing. So what do you think in terms of the marketing that they do and the growth activities that they do right? If I have to say, to another e-commerce brand that I know is missing, go to Heavy, see how they do this. What do you think it would be?
So there are a few things that they're doing, right? And the basic one that every DTC does is that performance marketing really well, and they do performance marketing in the highest level. And I know for a fact that they're working on creating not only just their own creatives, but creatives with partnerships and with bands, and they're doing things that are with a community kind of mindset in the performance marketing space. On top of that, they're always looking to partner with brands, a way to create more sales through um, having a lot of reviews and being covered or publications. So there's a lot of trust being built around the brand. So just to kind of tally that off, they're doing performance marketing very well. They're doing um, cross promotions with bands in the performance marketing. They're doing partnerships. And to add to all of that, they're making sure that the content that's written around them is across the board very good.
That's great. So it's multi distribution, multi platforms and channels, and that's one of the most important things in partnerships. So recommend. We'll add their name and their website address. So that would be interesting to see. So we're looking at 2025. We're just on the edge of 2024, and there's a lot of exciting developments. There were a lot this year, and expect to bring a lot will come next year. So what do you see as exciting innovation coming for, let's say, the Shopify ecosystem or the ecosystem in general, that brands need to take note of? What innovation, technology that you see coming, or even a trend?
So maybe I'll put a spotlight on what is kind of proving itself right now to the point where nobody can ignore it anymore in 2025, and that is the Shopify tech stack that e-commerce sellers have. And in that tech stack, they need to have multiple things that do different things. So, for example, you have rep, which is like you're a salesman inside of your site. And that is very different from a regular support chatbot. So that is a premium aspect in that type of world of tech stacks that, that you can put in. And then you have maybe instead of like another run of the mill A/B testing, you have a format, and format will allow you to really create different user experiences for people to land in. And then when it comes to creating reviews and showcasing them, maybe even SMS marketing. Maybe you're going to go for a Yotpo. And then to add to all of that, you want to do retargeting campaigns better. So you'll put in revenue role, and maybe you'll want to create personalization, and maybe you'll want to optimize pricing. So there's so many different SaaS companies that you can put in your tech stack, but you have to have the right ones. And who knows if tomorrow there will be some kind of change in Shopify that will require you to put in another uh, the piece into that stack, or to actually remove one. But one thing's for sure, you have to always be on top of it, and you have to make sure that they also work in harmony with each other. So if you have different types of apps that can integrate to each other as well, and not just into Shopify, that's where usually you see that multiplier of value. So, for example, Rep integrate with Gorgeous, and I know that revenue role integrates into your Google and your Facebook ads, and the list can go on and on. So those are the things that kind of to take into account when you're building the tech stack. And I think that there will be next year more and more content from e-commerce founders on how their e-commerce tech stack looks like.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And AI, I mean, you're saying for some people it can be very overwhelming, right? Coming to, like, I just want to sell my stuff, but then I have so many apps. The tech stack is enormous. I can do so many things. How do I decide what to do and how to vet the right app? Coming into play also the AI aspect of it, right? AI is now all over the place. And if you look at the Shopify marketplace, there are many AI apps over there. How do you suggest, if you look at this, if you talk to a brand, like, how should they vet the right tech stack?
So, as someone who has a store of his own and has to remove and install different things, the best way to look at it is in the beginning, research, then references, and then monitor usage. If you are using it, then it should stay. If it's adding dollars or saving dollars, it should stay. In the research and reference stages, it's really up to you how deep you want to go down the rabbit hole. You can decide to go based on basic research and then to invest more time in references. That is what I usually prefer to do. Or you can really dive deep in research and skip the references and hope that your research panned out. Um, in the world of always like tools popping up, one of the best things a seller can do for themselves is try to, I want to say, give up on that feeling of FOMO and to really dive into JOMO, the joy of missing out on tools, the joy of missing out on the different trends that are happening. Because sometimes the best thing that is working right now is the thing that's trialed and tested. And there's always going to be something, shiny and bright. And many of us sometimes have shiny object syndrome. Those things are usually what makes an e-commerce seller defocus from the most crucial parts of the business. And when that happens, a lot of times they might blame existing tools and keep testing new tools, and they'll get into this kind of endless spiral. So sometimes it's a good time to just do what you're doing and to find periods of times for when do you want to make the decision, and then you can go through that research reference and then monitor usage stage.
Right. That's very true. That I like the Jofo,
Jomo, Jomo,
Joel,
the
um,
joy of missing out.
joy of missing out, and I think any for any company that I've been with, it's about first understanding where in the timeline are you supposed to recalculate if this is the right time to decide, because it takes time to ramp up, right? It takes time to customize the platform, to understand if it fits you, if it's the right thing for you. It's not something that happened immediately, right? When you're on the platform. Same goes to ads.
I think that one of the beautiful things about e-commerce is that the feedback loop to see if things working is faster than other industries. But is there consistency in that feedback? Does it stand the test of time? Because one of the things that e-commerce has that is more volatile than other industries is seasonality. So if you sometimes see that something isn't working, it could be seasonality related. And then vice versa. Something might be working too good. Something might be working too good, and then that could be seasonality related. So it works both ways. Sometimes seasonality is on your side, sometimes it's against you. And when you have um, these types of things in your industry, you have to take them into account also when you're testing new tech, when you're starting new advertising campaigns. It always has to be in the back of your mind. When am I starting something and what does it mean for what I'm testing out?
Yeah, definitely. And as someone that's been in performance marketing for a long time, right? We talked about that, and you have a lot of insights. I love learning from your experience. E-commerce brands are investing a lot in Meta, right? Meta, Google Ads, putting a lot of money in to bring people into their stores, into their website. And it's very easy to get frustrated because the cost of acquisition is extremely high, right? It's not the same as years ago that it was cents for a lead. What is your hack these days to do it better, to do a better, not get too frustrated, to do a better work, a better job in performance?
I wish there was a hack, but the winning formula has never really changed. It may have changed in the amount of hours and days and weeks and months that you might have to invest in it. You have to create a good creative that catches people and makes sure that that attention grabbing creative also gets people to click. But then you have to create a landing page, and that landing page cannot give people cognitive dissonance versus that creative. You can't create such a good creative and then a landing page that doesn't fit. A lot of times people sacrifice um, this experience by creating the best creative ever that will never have a landing page that will match for it. So once you have a creative that matches the landing page and they live in harmony with each other, then you have to understand, okay, am I building enough trust here for someone to hit that add to cart? And will that trust follow through to initiation of checkout? And those are things that any performance marketing platform that owns the user, like the Meta and the TikTok of the world, those are things that are signals that usually signal back to the platforms. This is a good ad, good landing page, good experience. The user is finding what they wanted. A high conversion rate makes those platforms happy. And if you can convey something from the get-go, from the creative, all the way through the landing page, all the way through the experience, to the right people at the right time, you will create this kind of harmonious. CPMs will go lower, conversion rates will go higher, everything will just fall in place. It's when you try to look at everything as an island, not connecting the dots, trying to optimize each of these components in an echo chamber. That's when things go south. That's when CPMs go high. That's when the audience doesn't convert. So there's one way to do this, looking at the full funnel as one big picture and making sure that the user, even if you have to sacrifice how clickbaity that is, even if the landing page needs to be more informational than actual marketing creative, even if the checkout, you have to sometimes give up on trying to do an upsell just to not break the user kind of, mindset at that moment. Even if you have to do these sacrifices, think about the bigger picture and try to get the funnel from end to end to its best ability as a whole, and do not fractionalize it into different projects that are not connected.
True. A whole experience, a whole customer journey. And then, by the way, do you have a thoughts about how many landing pages should there be? I mean, there could be like 50 ads, right? How should there be 50 different text ad? There be 50 landing pages, or segment them, or do you know any AI app that can help solve that? What are your thoughts on that? Because it's a lot to maintain, right,
Yeah.
for a
So
brand.
so I guess this is like one of these things that everybody has their own kind of Bible of how they go through these things. I like to start with um an amount of creatives that tests different messages, and it's hard to get to 50 different messagings, right? So just somewhere between 4 or 8 or in most 12, and then landing pages 2, maybe 3 tops. And that is like kind of, you can test probably most companies in the world with that kind of stack. It doesn't matter if you're selling a $20 product or you're selling $100,000 software. Usually that should do the trick to test the messaging and to try to attract the right audience to the right product. From there, when you dive into, you can actually get more granular and test even further. And because when it comes to small optimizations, that's when you have to like kind of throw a lot of different things to see how you can make the next breakthrough. The first breakthrough is always the easiest. The second one is the hardest because now you're already on kind of base camp number one on the way to Mount Everest. From here on out, it's going to get difficult.
Right. It will. And let's talk about the in-store experience. So there's the performance of bringing shoppers in and doing the whole journey of fitting between the ad and the landing page, and what they see, but then they land in the store. And what are your recommendations there to make sure that they actually buy and don't bounce and come back again?
I think making things clear and neat where you can find everything about the product you're about to buy is extremely important, especially when direct to consumer always going to have a trust deficit versus like a marketplace like Amazon, where if you check really what Amazon is doing, they're making sure that you have as much information about the product from a trust level to make a buying decision. From a marketing aspect, there's not a lot of marketing you can do inside of Amazon. You're kind of, very locked in on Shopify. Just because it's different doesn't mean you have to go full blown with it. So if you want to play around with things to make sure that somebody maybe convert, you can always do pop-up intent, give a coupon. You can always try to play around with different landing page components like button colors and fonts and sizes and stuff like that. But don't sacrifice one of the most important things. Make sure people understand what are they actually buying, what are the specs of what they're buying, how fast it's going to ship, and is there anything that is important to know before making the purchase? So that is, I think, one of the best ways to give somebody a good kind of fuzzy, warm feeling inside before they make a purchase with a brand. And many times in direct to consumer, you get excited over or something you just found on your Facebook or Instagram feed. You don't really know the brand. You can go to Google and search them for reviews. You might see all kinds of reviews on the bottom from like a Lux or Yotpo. But you're really making your leap of faith in the e-commerce industry and movements in a whole each time you're buying from a brand you've never heard of. So I think keeping things informational, clean in a way that people understand what they're buying is probably one of the most important in-store experiences that uh, e-commerce sellers should not miss out on providing as much information as possible. There's no such thing as over communicating.
Yeah. And I think that's the aspect also of course it comes to mind, the conversational AI that, for us, one of the things that we love to do is to show brands what customers are asking about because they can't find it on the store, and what the AI can find on the store. And then oh, I'm missing all this information, and I can add this to my product page, which increases the CX in great ways. So there's no too much information, but there's so many information now that just the brand doesn't know that the customer is actually missing it because they don't talk to him. It's digital, right? They're not in the store all the time.
But that's where like a technology like rep comes in and you have that salesperson to communicate with the person in the store. So that kind of can bridge the gap. And there are post surveys that could be sent in the end of buying experience. And sometimes people buy even when they don't have the full picture of information. And they'll be usually be honest and tell you, yeah, I bought this even though, I'm not sure that what I'm about to get. And here's what I was missing to know. So um, it's really good to use different types of avenues of collecting information, if it's like a post survey or rep, or even just like manually emailing people and asking them about their buying experience, like really founder to consumer, and then later building frequently asked question sections around these data points that you're collecting manually.
Definitely, definitely. So what is your when you see the brands that you're working with, and the the not just, I mean, the e-commerce brand, the SaaS brands, there are so many types of companies. What is the mistake that you're saying that they're doing in growth? Like a mistake that you're catching yourself. What's your frequent slap that you're saying, how do you do that? How dare you, to a growth specialist like yourself?
So I'll start with the e-commerce sellers that I see through the different hats I wear. I think the biggest mistake most e-commerce sellers are making right now in the kind of arena of growth is not focusing enough on to be an omni-channel, direct to consumer. Um, I want to say build to last brand, because when you are focusing on one channel, everything Facebook, and then maybe just a bit of Google, you're not building a brand that's going to last. You have to have that performance marketing working in the discovery area on Facebook and TikTok. You have to have, when it comes to intent, Google, Bing, and SEO. And even invest in YouTube, because YouTube is the second largest search after Google. And on top of that, email marketing. Keep selling to the people you already sold to. That is another channel. And last but not least, think about other ways to create, um, I want to say, partnerships and revenue in one package. So that could be affiliates, partners, influencers, and resident. Um, I would go so far to say that e-commerce sellers should also create their own content assets. It could be a website, it could be a newsletter, it could be their own video channel, it could be a podcast. There are many direct to consumer sellers that are focusing on one or one and a half channels and not doing all these different things. And I think that is the mistake they're doing in growth.
So some growth, um, you know, specialists. I don't know how do you call it, growth, growth hackers will say, that's a mistake. You have choose two, choose one, do it really, really, really well. Do email marketing really well, do content on your website really well. Don't spend your time on trying to ace or win TikTok. It takes so much time to do it really well. Prefer to go deep than to go wide. um,
I agree with that on kind of like I want to say on an e-commerce level, where I'm thinking about the average e-commerce seller has a lot of room to grow inside one channel, right? Um, but in the same time, what I'm currently seeing when we're doing this interview, 2-3 weeks before there's another hearing about closing down TikTok, and might happen in a month from now. When you have everything, all your eggs in one basket, you're really risking your business. It's not like, for example, in my other hat, where I have this company, Demand Box, where I serve SaaS companies, and I also serve their I also serve their different types of ones, do ones who do B2B, B to SMB, etc. They can jump between a marketing led motion, a product led motion, and a sales led motion, and this of itself can open different channels. All e-commerce is a marketing led motion. You're already kind of doing one thing really well. You have to market very well. By going and saying that inside that marketing, you should do just one or two channels, but you don't have to do R&D. You don't have to have an extremely heavy finance team in office. You don't have to have um, product managers. There's like so many things that you don't have to do as an e-commerce seller. So if you're only a production meets customer service meets um, marketing company, because most things in between are solved, how can you avoid expanding to more and more channels? Like, what is the excuse? When it comes to the production side, it's not a day-to-day operation. Customer success is responding to clients is. I understand that that is important, but it's a must, right? Like it's the cost of doing business. You have to answer to your clients. Marketing is basically the make or break of everything. You're either going to succeed through that go to market or you're not. Um, your accounting is set. You can use Final Loop and you can set and forget your accounting. Your cash flow issues are gone. You can take an 8-fig funding. And if you, want to even, you know, really think about one of the most stressful things in e-commerce with returns, you can just implement a return go. There are so many things solved for you. The only thing that nobody solved is I will bring you more traffic. I will bring you more sales. You have to actually go to an agency for that, or to hire a person for that, or to learn that on your own. And because that has still so many solutions that you can choose to, that's why most of your focus should go there. And if most of your focus is going there, think about how you're not focusing most of your time on something, and then one day it just all vanishes. Because I'll give you one example. Um, Tomorrow, Meta says that any direct to consumer seller that is selling something that deals with cellulite is banned from the platform. What happens then? How do you do anything? I saw, and maybe I'll sign off with this. If an e-commerce seller ever wants to sell their business, they need to show that they don't have a single point of failure. It doesn't matter in which aspect of the business. So they need to show that if their manufacturing, God forbid, closes down tomorrow, there are options. If their customer success team or whoever's working in the company all quit tomorrow, there are options. When it comes to demand creation, there are currently different options. But if you only master one, you have that single point of failure. So for the exit story, I think it's important to focus on more than one platform.
Yeah. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket, on the Meta basket or on the TikTok basket, and then when it breaks, that's it. You're done. You need to start fresh.
Some sellers started their whole business on TikTok Shop, and I'm crossing my fingers that their business will keep thriving. And TikTok will stay open in the US.
Yeah, and you remember that there are multiple platforms that change the algorithm one morning, and that's it. Many companies have failed because of that.
One line of code sometimes.
One
That's
line of
all it
code.
takes.
Definitely. And it is, today, with AI and automation, um, as you said, you can automate your returns and automate your finances and automate your manufacturing and everything. A lot of things can be automated.
We only mentioned maybe a quarter of them. Like I didn't mention that. Like for example, a company like Final Loop can backdate your taxes and accounting. A company like 8Fig can do stock inventory projections for stocking. Um, Company like Rep can create cross sells for you in real time because you have this real salesperson inside the digital website. So like there's like micro things that we've kind of skipped here, that each one of them is another 2% and 3% and 4% efficiency and upside for the business. And that all compounds a lot of things that multiply when they just meet each other. And then you sometimes can see like e-commerce sellers that, we both have as mutual clients, let's say, under Outfit, who grows from 500K to 10 million to 80 million in a span of 36 months,
With a very lean team.
and a very great tech stack.
Yes, because and know knowledge how to optimize it. So they need to do less administration and more focus on acquisition, right? And retention. That's a really winning formula.
And I think that they're masters in bringing in clients, and they're masters of remonetizing their clients. Any seller on that level of understanding of go to market will never fall short of being successful in this space, because it is really a marketing business. That is the e-commerce space. You will always have a fighting chance if you're really good at marketing. You can fail completely manufacturing and still fight another day. You can't fail marketing.
Yep. Agree. Okay, so we'll look at today, and where do you see for the future looking now, end of 2025, 2026, the world is moving so fast. Technology is moving so fast. Where do you see e-commerce next, with AI? What, most companies are going to be two people and everything would be automized? And connecting to our last question, but where is it going?
So I think it's divided into a few things, right? There are certain things that people will want AI, and certain things that people won't. So, for example, anything related to customer support, people will want AI in the mix. Anything will will be related to getting a quick response on something, they'll want AI in the mix. And anything that will require more deep thinking, strategizing insights, it's going to be kind of a need of a hybrid, right? And there are some annoying tasks that, again, people will prefer AI. So if I have to like think about how I see the e-commerce space in this, I think that there's going to be a whole back end of the office that people are going to want AI to be involved, which is cash flow projections and inventory restocking and marketing insights and basically anything that would require a data analyst or a financial controller or anything of these kind of roles that you really don't want on your payroll in e-commerce. And then those things are going to probably be solved by AI. Things that you won't want AI in. You wouldn't want somebody in the creative suite to be in AI because, in the end of the day, the one thing that AI still doesn't have is the ability to have this inspiration hit them and to come up with great idea. If we're thinking about like, a brand that I'm pretty sure AI in even 10 years from now would not be able to manage their marketing, like a Liquid Death, which are like one of my favorite direct to consumer brands in the past 3 years. And then you have on top of that, um, let's say something like your accounting. You don't really want to trust in the world of accounting AI yet because there are so many different things that a creative accountant or a smart accountant or someone with like inside knowledge of your industry accountant can help you with. And it's not like kind of one size fits all. And then when it comes to creating, I want to say different um, types of engagement with clients that are not with customer success and sales in mind, kind of like community building and partnership building and getting influencers involved in your business. That's where, again, I'm not sure you're going to want AI. So there's going to be these segments where AI is going to be very important. There's going to be segments that I think that uh, AI can be supportive in the back end, but the human touch will still be extremely important. I don't know one influencer that wants to get involved with a brand without talking directly to the founder or maybe somebody from the founding team to really see how their influencer brand and that direct to consumer brand can really connect. And it's not just, a cash grab from the influencer side. A lot of influencers are very keen on keeping the authenticity. And what is more authentic than right now? Still humans.